Hello everyone. Thank you so much Upkarjit for the quick introduction, and I would like to welcome everyone for joining us today on the biggest Australia's education and migration conclave. So let me just share my screen. My name is Sailu Maharzan, an education consultant from Aussie's Group NSW Parramatta branch, and I'm very much delighted to have the opportunity to speak with you about the cookery courses. And our registered migration agent, Mr. Deepen Prajapati, will be speaking on the PR pathway for the very same program. So now let's begin with the presentation. Sorry, before presentation, I would also like to give a quick hands-on information regarding the services that we are providing. Aussie's Group is not only about education and migration. We are also having a lot of other services, including pre-T tutorials, IELTS tutorials, NAATI CCL tutorials, where you can learn a lot of tricks and tips for your exams. And also we have a Get My Policy online services where you can check your OHSC policies. We also have professional year programs for those who are studying IT, engineering, and accounting background. So if you have any queries, you guys can reach us out for further information on these things. A big shout out to Aquasearch mobile applications, where you can get a update regarding visa options, state nomination criteria and eligibility, estimated visa fees, and all the Australian skill occupations related changes. Now let's begin with the presentation for the cookery. So talking about the cookery courses, cookery is something where you will be learning about the culinary educations and trainings where the students will learn the essential culinary skills, techniques, and food preparation methods, where students can explore a variety of cuisines and culinary traditions and gain the knowledge in menu planning, food safety, and kitchen management. It is not only based on the cooking skills, but also about the food safety and management sector. So where after completing the course, student will also get a chance to learn a hands-on practical experience in a professional kitchen settings, because they will be getting a practicals in this program. So after completing the course, you will be gaining acquired nationally recognized qualifications and certifications, which will open doors to a diverse career opportunity in culinary industry, where you can develop creativity, innovation, and passion for cooking. So this course is 1 to 2 years trade course. It depends on which visa you're holding. If you're holding a international student visa, then it is for 2 years so that you are eligible for your 485 visa. And if you're already holding a 485 visa, then you can also have an option of getting it done within a 1 year as a fast track option. After completing this course, you'll have to go through 1 year of job ready program, which would be 1,725 hours of JRP, where you'll have to maintain your logbook to further process it. This trade course is essential, and trade business is one of the growing industry in Australia at the moment, where trade skill employees are highly in demand. There are 4 types of trade course in cookery program. That would be Certificate 3 in Commercial Cookery, Certificate 4 in Commercial Cookery, Diploma in Kitchen Management, and Advanced Diploma in Kitchen Management. So after completing the Certificate 3 in Commercial Cookery, you will be eligible to become a cook, whereas in Certificate 4, you will be eligible to become a chef. So if you're looking more into management sector, then you can also study Diploma in Kitchen Management. Same goes for Advanced Diploma in Kitchen Management. So the entry requirement for this program would be varying according to the institute to institute. So students have to complete a high school degree or equivalent degree to get admission into this course. And talking about the language proficiency requirement, they have to have 5.5 or equivalent if they are from non-English speaking country. So remaining would be application form which students have to fill and send it to the institute to get admission and check and meet the application deadlines. Talking about the culinary schools in Australia, there are many more schools available overall in Australia. Few of them would be TAFE, the Cordon Bleu, William Inglis Institute, Box Hill Institute, and Leeds College. These institutes are overall available in all over Australia. As we all know, TAFE is available everywhere, whereas La Cordon Bleu is available in Adelaide, Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne. Same goes for William Inglis and Box Hill Institute available in Melbourne, and Leeds College is available in Perth and Sydney. So these institutes have a very affordable tuition fees starting from 18,000 to 24,000. And as I also mentioned earlier, the duration of the course could be 1 to 2 years. A lot of scholarship opportunities are available for the students in these institutes, which is nationally recognized qualification and certifications. So what are the benefits of this course? Talking about the benefit of the course, students after completing this course, they can have a hands-on industry placement option where students can gain a practical experience through working in regular real-life culinary industry, and also build a network with industry professionals where they can establish a valuable connections with people who are relevant to this very industry to grow their career advancement. And also they can have a professional kitchen experience where they can gain a practical skills and knowledge by working in a professional kitchen environment and learn many more things. And also they can build a industry connections and partnerships where they can meet lot of people relevant to the very same industry and establish collaboration relationship and aligned with the business organization so that they can benefit themselves by creating a mutual benefit with a culinary industry and people around them. So talking about the career opportunity, culinary is very much diverse in career paths that have availability in this course. So professional chef and kitchen management roles would be one of the top leading roles at the moment after completing the cookery courses. Catering and event management opportunities are one of the good option at the moment because I can see like a lot of event management opportunities are getting up as lot of people are getting into events and they would like professionalism in their events, so they hired event management to organize the events, which create a lot of opportunity for those who have completed these course. Pastry chef and baking specialist positions, entrepreneurship and starting a food business by your own, restaurants and hospitality management careers. Not only this, they also have a food consultant and culinary instructor roles in this program. Talking about the safe occupation profile here, recently NSW government has categorized the profile of those students who have completed this course, and they get to know that 13.9% of future growth they can see according to the Job and Skill Australia's 5-year employment projection estimated the future employment level and amount of projection employment changes from 81,100 to 92,300. Whereas out of 100%, 58% of the people who have completed this course are working as a full-time worker under this industry. According to the ABS 2016 census customized report, same goes for 25% of female share can be seen according to the very same report. After completing the course of cookery, most of the people seems to get 80% of employed. Over 116,300 people have been seen employed with this course, according to the ANGISCO 4-digit occupations. So now we have come to the end of the slide. So if you have any question, feel free to ask us in the chat box and we will be answering that at the end of the presentation. And now I'd like to request Mr. Dipen Prajapati to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dipen Prajapati, and I'm a registered migration agent here at Oasis Group Brisbane office. So, as Shailu discussed about the courses which are available for the cookery and which can also lead you toward permanent residency, I would like to go ahead and discuss more about what are the options are available for the permanent residency once you complete this course of commercial cookery. So, let's start with this thing. So Shailu has already discussed about the services what we are providing at Oasis Group offices. So you can always Google about our products and take advantage of our services as well. Okay, so let's start about the what are the occupations available. First of all, in particular field of cookery. So the two main occupations which can be categorized as a chef and a cook. Chef, which is a falls under skill level 2, where you require a minimum certificate 4 level qualification. Now, there is a difference between a chef and cook. So chef is a bit higher position than the cook, consider when you do the kitchen management. Chef's main role is to plan and organize and preparation of the cooking in the food and in any sort of environment, which includes the kitchen management. There are different specializations available for the chef as well, which include chef de partie, commis chef, demi chef, sous chef, and other specialization chef as well. Well, in compared to chef, cook is an I would say a second level position in the kitchen, which is comes after the chef position, who get the instruction from the chefs and execute the orders or the instruction from the chef to prepare the meals as well. Now, to be a chef, you require certificate 4 level qualification, but to be a cook, you require only certificate 3 level qualification. So as from this slide, you can see that chef overall growth in the industry is very high in the job market in Australia. As of now, like there are almost 114,000 people are employed in particular this occupation. And if the growth we can see here, the future growth of this industry is 13.9%, which is a very good number I would consider, considering that the number of people required in this industry. This slide is available from the ABS Labor Force Survey, which was done on November 2021 with the in association with the National Skill Commission report. So you can see here there is always increase in the demand of chef occupation, while in the year of 2020 and 2021 there was a slight decrease in the demand considering there was a COVID happening in the entire world, and because of that, a lot of restaurant industry and hospitality industries were suffering from the lockdown, and that was the main reason. We can see here there was a slow pace in term of the job and in term of the employment. But since the COVID restrictions are over and the businesses are back again, so we can see that the number of employment will be going higher, 13.9% by 2026. Again, there is a good comparison. If you can see here in 2021, there was 81,100 people were employed, but by 2026, that number will be goes up to 92,300, or it can go above as well. The next important topic is the weekly earning, how shift their earnings. So if you see that from this slide, that overall national average of any job, a weekly income before tax is a 1,593, and chefs are not quite behind to that national average, which is almost like a $1,250, which I would say a good number, as well as government is also increasing the pay rise from this 1st of July. So we will be see that this number will be matching up with the national average with other jobs as well. But depending upon your skills and depending upon number of years of experience, this amount can be higher as well. And it can be, as per the national average as well. Now, the areas like which state in Australia has a more employment opportunity. So obviously New South Wales and Victoria, these two are the biggest state where a lot of people are currently coming from overseas, and you will see the lot of hospitality sectors, industries, and restaurants and all other businesses are available in these two places. Considering the number of businesses are there, we can see there is a high number of employment opportunity in these two particular states. But if you look at the other state, again, like Queensland is not far behind than Victoria and also Western Australia as well. While South Australia is slowly becoming one of the top destination for the students who is arriving in Australia. So we can see that number will be again in future, it can be higher as well from 6.2 to that goes up to 10%, 20% as well. But considering the current scenario, obviously the New South Wales and Victoria are one of the most popular destination in search of the job. Moving to the next slide. So what are the main industries where hospitality people can work? So accommodation and food services obviously is on the top of the list, where majority of the people will be working in a restaurant or cafe or any other food services. There are a small number of people will be working in the aged care or hospitality facility where they assist these healthcare professionals and the patients to get their meal according to their dietary requirement. Very small number in manufacturing and other industries, which obviously it's not I would say a very high number, but definitely we can see the increase in those figures as well. But the majority of the people will get a chance of working in accommodation and hospitality industries directly. The next occupation, which is a cook for the people who complete a certificate 3-level study. Again, the future growth seems very low at this point of time. But as I mentioned earlier as well, like there are a lot of industries and, after COVID restriction, a lot of other businesses are also back on the track. So obviously there will be a requirement of cooks as well, along with the chefs and the management as well. So there is a very good chances that in future you will see a lot of opportunity for this particular occupation as well. Now again, if you see the number of people working in the same occupation as a cook in 2021 was almost 45,000. And by 2026, we will be seeing the growth as well in this particular sector, in this particular occupation as well. Now, again, weekly earning for the cooks, again, it's a very good number, I would consider. 1,188, so roughly like almost $1,200 a week, which is not far behind the chef occupation, which we discussed earlier as well. So with industry-wise, again, and with the number of years of experience, your weekly earning can be varied. Also, it depends upon the area or the industry where you're working. This number can be vary as well. So moving to the next slide, again, the employment opportunities across Australia, New South Wales and Victoria are on the top once again, while Queensland is on the 3rd place and ACT has the lowest employment rate, considering that there are a lot of ACT is basically the capital of Australia. So Canberra is specifically the major city, and they have a lot of government organizations. So obviously there are very less chance of getting a job or opportunity in this particular area. But still we cannot deny that there is a industry, though the market is very small, but there are opportunities available in Canberra as well for getting a job in a cook or a chef position. Okay, moving to the next topic, which is, I would say, one of the most important topic for this session today, skill assessment requirement. Now, what is a skills assessment? So basically, skill assessment is issued by the Department of Home Affairs has authorized certain authorities who conduct the skill assessment process on behalf of the Department of Home Affairs, which means, let's say, if you got a skills, there is no way to verify your skills. So that was the reason department has set it a bodies specifically for trade occupation. They have a Trade Recognized Australia who will be doing an assessment based on their criteria. So their criteria is basically the applicant must have a minimum relevant qualification as well as certain level of experience. Depending upon your skills and experience, you can get a skill assessment done from the authority itself. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are two major authorities who will be conducting a skill assessment for cookery related occupations and specifically for trade related occupations as well. So the first assessment authority is a TRA, which is also known as Trade Recognition Australia. Now, TRA has two pathways. First of all is a job ready program. And the second one for the applicant who has a study and who has a work experience as well. So we will be major like focusing on the job ready program at this stage because a lot of international students who has completed the study in Australia, they are eligible for the job ready program. Well, someone who doesn't have an Australian qualification, they might have to go through the second pathway for getting the skill assessment. Now, let's talk about the job ready program. So the job ready program is only available for the applicant who has completed their study while holding a student visa. Now, student visa in Australia. Now, that student visa must be hold as a primary applicant if you are dependent or if you are having a secondary visa of your student. If you are dependent of your main student visa applicant, and if you complete your study, you will not be eligible to do a job ready program. Again, so there are 4 steps in the job ready program. Previously, it used to be the provisional skill assessment, and then last year department like TRA department has made changes when the government of Australia says that there will be no requirement of provisional skill assessment in lodging the skill assessment lodging the 485 visa applications. But from 1st of July 2023, TRA will be reintroducing the provisional skill assessment requirement. However, that 360 hours of vocational placement is not required at this stage because we do not have any official confirmation from TRA about the reintroduction of the vocational placement as well. So as of now, if you want to start your job ready program, the first step will be the provisional skill assessment. And for that, you only required to provide your identity documentations, your confirmation of enrollment or a student visa grant letter, along with the qualification documents, which includes your completion letter and the certificate of your course. Now, the second step, let's say once you complete your job ready registration and you got the positive outcome from TRA, the next step will be a job ready employment. Now, job ready employment is the that there is a start of your total 1 year of job ready program. So you need to find an employer who can provide you a job for at least 1 year for the job ready program. So the day you start your registration with the job ready employment, from that day onwards, your 1 year of period will be start. Now, once you start working with the employer, and let's say you have completed minimum 6 months of experience in a 6 month of time, 6 month of experience with the 863 hours, there will be a workplace assessment conducted by the TRA. So after finishing that, TRA officer will come to your place and they will conduct an interview with you. It can be a practical, it can be a theoretical as well. Depending upon your answer, you will be passed, but obviously it would be very easy for you if you have a kitchen experience. Now, once you will complete that job ready workplace assessment, you are eligible to go further for the next step, which is a job ready final assessment. So the requirement to apply for the job ready final assessment is you have to complete 12 months of experience from the JR job ready employment registration date, as well as you have to complete minimum 1725 hours in the total period of 12 months. If you completed that hours before 12 months, or if you have completed 12 months, but you haven't completed their hours, you will not be eligible to get a full skill assessment. And once you get this full skill assessment, you are eligible to use that outcome later for the general skill migration or any other visa processes. So 4-step process: job ready program registration, job ready employment registration, workplace assessment, and a final assessment. The total period is 12 months. And the number of hours required is 1725 hours. Now, let's say if an applicant has a previous work experience and do not have any study in Australia, or if they have a Australian qualification issued by RPL. So RPL is basically a recognized prior learning. I will discuss about this later today, but let's focus on the first requirement. Let's say if someone has completed the study in Australia, but they never lodge a 485 visa, or if they do not have an if they miss out from the job ready program. So what are the things they can do to get the skill assessment done? So they require a minimum 3 years of full-time work experience or equivalent part-time work experience. Now, that 3 years of experience has to be within last 10, 12 months, 10 months, 10 years of time. And out of this 3 years, the 1 year has to be within last 3 years of time frame. So total 3 years, 2 years anytime in last 10 years, plus 1 year experience full time within last 3 years of time frame. But you must have a qualification gained in Australia through the relevant RTO. If you do not have an Australian qualification, there will be a separate requirement for getting a skill assessment. But if you have an Australian qualification, you require 3 years of full time. Now here the full time experience means minimum 37.5 hours or 38 hours per week. That will be considered as a full time. Part-time hours will be considered 20 hours per week. And also from this July onwards, the department will be changing the time for the part-time employment to 24 hours per week. So you may require to gain like 24 hours experience in order to consider your employment as a part-time. Now, if you do not have an Australian qualification, but you have a prior work experience, so in that case, you can get an Australian qualification issued by the like RPL certificate. So you can contact the RTO office, RTO, and they can check your employment, they can check your experience, and based on that, they can issue an RPL qualification. So once you issue an RPL qualification, you can go for 3 years of work experience after the certificate issued, or if you have a total number 6 years of experience, then it can be also considered because your initial 3 years of work experience will be count towards meeting the minimum requirement. So obviously your initial work experience will substitute the qualification requirement. And then after, if the certificate is issued, that the remaining experience you can count in order to meeting the skill assessment requirement. The another assessing authority, which is assigned by the Department of Home Affairs under the direct supervision of TRA, which is a VET-SS. VET-SS only do certain occupations assessment for the trade occupations. Majority of their occupations are general occupation, but for trade, cookery is available. And VET-SS also have two pathways to do an assessment. So first pathway is if you do not have an Australian qualification, you require minimum 3 to 5 years of full-time work experience. Now, if you do not have an Australian qualification and if you are working in a non-licensed trade, so cookery, chef, and these are non-licensed trade occupations, so you require 5 years of employment experience. But if you have a relevant qualification, you require only 3 years of work experience. Now, the second option will be pathway 2, where you do have a qualification. So it's simple like a TRA. You require 3 years of full-time work experience, and that minimum 1 year of experience has to be within last 3 years. So pretty much same requirement like a TRA has set. The only difference is the VET-SS is also another assessing authority who can conduct a skill assessment on behalf of the TRA as well. There are certain other authorities as well, like William Anglis and ACI, like there is a college as well who can also conduct the skill assessment. So you can go with any relevant assessing authority for your skill assessment process. Now, VET-SS has a mainly two stages for the assessment. The first stage will be the evidence review, where you have to provide the evidence of your employment as well as your study as well. So once the the case officer will assign, they will check and confirm the eligibility for your evidences. And once you pass the evidence review stage, they will invite you for the technical interview, which will be the second stage. Now, in technical interview, you may require to perform the task which is given by the assessing officer. Now, here, one of the important thing you need to understand is all these assessment will held in English, and you will not be getting interpreter services. So make sure you also work on your English as well while going for a technical interview stage. Now, what are the future pathways after completing cookery studies? So 3 main options available. You can go for the graduate visa, which is a subclass 485, a general skill migration visa, which comes with a subclass 189, 190, and 491. And the other occupation will be an employer sponsored visa, subclass 482, 186, and 494. Now let's talk about 485 visa in a graduate work stream. So obviously this stream is only available for the international graduate who has completed the study in a certificate 3 level or above and goes up to the advanced diploma level study. The minimum qualification is certificate 3, but it has to be in a trade qualification only. Now, the visa grant period for a graduate work stream applicant will be 24 months. The minimum requirement to apply for this visa is must have completed 92 weeks of CRICO study. Plus, the English requirement is overall 6 band, minimum 5 band in individual module of the English test. Now, as I mentioned earlier as well, TRA is also like bringing, and Department of Home Affairs is bringing this provisional skill assessment requirement from 1st of July onwards. So if you already completed your study and if you would like to lodge your visa, you can lodge now before 30th June, before 1st of July, my bad. You can lodge your 485 visa under a graduate stream, regardless having a provisional skill assessment. But if you are lodging after 1st of July, the provisional skill assessment is a mandatory requirement. Now, 3 major pathways available for the general skill migration: subclass 189, which is also known as a skill independent visas, subclass 190 and 491 as well. So 190 is known as a skill nominated visa. A common name of this particular visa is a state nominated visa. Now in 491 visas, there are 2 categories available. First one is a family sponsored stream, which is directly managed by the Department of Home Affairs with 189 invitations. And the second option would be the skill regional state sponsor stream. It means if you are working or if you're meeting the state nomination criteria, the particular state where you are applying, the state can also issue an invitation for subclass 491 visa. Now, what are the basic requirements to apply for the general skill migrations visas? So there are main 4 requirements. The applicant must have a positive skills assessment in their nominated occupation. So we already discussed about the skill assessment requirement. Now, if you have a provisional skill assessment, if you have the provisional skill assessment, that will not meet the requirement for this visas. You must have a full skill assessment. So full skill assessment can be obtained only after completing your job ready program, or if you have a certain years of experience, you can obtain the full skill assessment. The second requirement is you must have a minimum 65 points in the Department of Home Affairs point system. This is a current point system. However, in the recent news, department which announced last month that they are making some changes into their point system, but it is not implemented yet. We will be wait for the further information from the department when exactly they will making changes in this point system requirement. The third requirement is in English. Now, every applicant who is applying for the general skill migration visa as a primary applicant, they must require a 6 band each in IELTS or equivalent examination. So you can also appear for a PT, TOEFL or CAE exam, but the score has to be minimum 6 each equivalent IELTS examinations. Also, age limit applies. So if you are 45 years of age, you can apply, but once you beyond 45 years, this visa options is not available for you. Now, how can you calculate your points? Now, if you can see here on the slides, I have mentioned different factors for the age for the points calculator. So main factors which can impact on your point score is your age, your level of study. Have you completed study in Australia? So if you meet the Australian study requirement, you always have a benefit. Apart from Australian study requirement, if you have completed study in a regional area of Australia, you will be having a benefit compared to student who has completed study in non-regional areas. Also, your level of English, your marital status, your work experience overseas and Australian can also make a difference. And also, if you have completed additional examinations like a NATI CCL examination, you can claim the points. I will pause for a second here, and you can, if you have any question regarding this point, you can ask me the question later, but you can take the picture of this slides for better understanding of how you can calculate your points. Okay, moving to the next slide, let's discuss about the specifically visa subclasses. Now, the first visa subclass under one general skilled migration visas is the subclass 189, which is a skilled independent visas. Now, this is one of the best pathway to achieve your residency. And one of the most common pathway, I would say, for an applicant to achieve their residency. 189 is a direct permanent residency. There is no catch or nothing involved in this visa. So if you get this visa, you become a permanent resident of Australia straight away. Point-based system, and all your occupation must be in the department's long-term occupation strategic skill list. So here I would like to mention that if your nominated occupation is a chef, then you can go ahead with this 189 visa option. Cook, unfortunately, is not available for this visa. Currently, Cook, they can only apply for the 190 or 491 visas. However, if you have seen in recent time, though cookery and cooks were in a short-term list, department has provided a residency pathway through employer-sponsored visas based on if you were affected during the COVID period. But it's again like if you are definitely the recommendation would be your occupation should be in the MLTSS list if you are applying for the 189 visas. And 189 visa is, I would say, one of the most competitive way because you are getting competition from all across the world, not only in Australia. So you have to be very good in your points. If you do not have a good points, then obviously you can miss out from the invitation. Now, it's an invitation-based process. So Department of Home Affairs, they conduct an invitation round on quarterly basis. Recently, in this financial year, department has conducted 4 invitation rounds so far. And we have seen in a December round where chef occupation was invited with 65 points only, which was the base point of lodging this expression of interest for this 189 visas. So onshore, offshore, both the applicants were invited with 65 points only. However, in future, obviously that point requirement or the cutoff point will fluctuate. But that was the minimum point when last time chef were invited for 189 visas. Now 190 visa, again, I would say a very good way for lodging a permanent residency apart from 189 visa. It is also a direct permanent residency pathways and point-based visa as well. So here the benefit of a 190 visa is you also get an additional point from the state government. And if you are short of the point, for example, if you have only 60 points and you are short of 5 points. So when you lodge this 190 visa, the state government will also give you an extra 5 points. So you can meet the minimum 65 points requirement, which is set by the Department of Home Affairs. So again, like it's a very good alternative. I would definitely recommend it applicants if you are short of the point in 189 visa, you can always look for 190 visa as well. Again, like it's a state nomination visa, which means that every state and territory has their own criteria. Depending upon the state where you are living, you should always check the criteria of that particular state. And if you're meeting the criteria, my recommendation would be you should definitely apply for 190 visa along with 189. Now, Another visa subclass is subclass 491, which is a skilled regional provisional visas through state nominations. It's a 5 years of visa, basically like any other permanent residency visa. Department will issue 5 years of visa with the condition is you have to live and work minimum 3 years in a regional area. Now, once you complete 3 years of living and working, you will be eligible to apply for subclass 191 visa. The recent update from the department came up with in the last week that they have removed this requirement for subclass 191 visa, which means before it was used to be you had to earn minimum $53,900 in per year income for every financial year in order to lodge a 191 visa. However, it is gone and there is no income requirement anymore of lodging this 191 visas. Again, the benefit of 491 visa is you get additional 15 points from the state government, and also you get a Medicare facility as well, like any other permanent resident of Australia. The alternative stream for the 491 visa is a family stream. Again, if you have applying under a chef, you can eligible for this 491 visa through family stream. Considering that occupation must be in the long-term occupation list. You must have a sponsor. Eligible sponsor must be living in a regional area of Australia at the time of invitation. So there is a list of sponsor who can be your sponsor, which includes your uncle, aunts, your first cousins, or your grandparents, grandpas. They can be your sponsor or your cousins as well. So first cousin only. If you have extended family members, they cannot be a sponsor for this particular stream. Now, what are the popular states where you can apply for the nomination for a cookery related occupation? So again, like Victoria, New South Wales, Western Australia, and Queensland, these 4 are most popular state when it comes to lodging the like a permanent residency. Again, like if you have seen in the previous slides, is where job opportunities were higher in these 3 particular states like Queensland, Victoria, and New South Wales. So obviously, a lot of people will be applying state nomination from these 3 places as well. Now, I will be discussing about Queensland at the moment because Queensland state nomination criteria was open in this financial year. And they have basically 2 main requirements. There were 2 visa classes available, subclass 190 and 491. For subclass 190, the main requirement was applicant must be living and working for minimum 6 months full time immediately before lodging their expression of interest. And as well as they must have a minimum 75 points. For non-trade occupation, the requirement was 80 points, and they also required a 7 band each. But for trade occupations, specifically like a cookery occupation, they do not require a 7 band each. So if you have only 75 points and 6 band each, plus minimum 6 months of work experience anywhere in Queensland, you are eligible for subclass 190 invitation as well. Alternatively, if you are short of the point and you do not reach that 75 points requirement, and you are working and living in a regional area of Queensland with just 3 months of full-time work experience, you are eligible to lodge a 491 visa from Queensland state. If you do not have a job or if you are not working your nominated occupation in Queensland, Queensland has an additional pathway available for a business visa through the business sponsorship. Which is known as the small business owner visas, where you had to invest a minimum $100,000 in an existing business which was 2 years old and operating in regional Queensland. Obviously, you can buy any business. There is no restrictions on buying the businesses. However, that business must be operating, as I mentioned earlier, for 2 years. And you can also go for the franchisee businesses, and there is no restrictions on that as well. Once you take over the business, you have to operate the business minimum 6 months before lodging the expression of interest. Again, the minimum requirement for lodging the state nomination through small business owner pathway is you must have a positive skills assessment, minimum 65 points, and business as well, which is you have traded for minimum 6 months. No partnership is acceptable when you lodge this SBO visa in Queensland. And also you need to hire at least one Australian employee who is a citizen or permanent resident or eligible New Zealand citizen. They can work in your business to meet this minimum working employees requirement, which is 20 hours per week. And that is for minimum 6 months until you lodge your application. Now let's move on to the employer sponsored visas. So far I have discussed about the independent visa options, but if you have an experience and if you have a workplace where your employer is happy to give you a sponsorship for the visas, you can also look for this employer sponsored visas, which is again like a very good pathway, I would say, if you have a job opportunity and if you got a sponsor to nominate you. Now, to apply for this visa, employer, as its name suggests, it's an employer-sponsored visas, which means you must have an eligible sponsor and who is operating the businesses, who is operating their businesses in Australia lawfully and actively, and they must comply with all the obligations of the sponsorship. And also, one of the important thing when you lodge this employer-sponsored visa is you have to work with the same employer. So for example, if you have been sponsored by employer A, you have to work with the same employer until you hold that particular visa. If you change your employer, obviously you have to do the entire process again, like changing the nomination, but you cannot work with any other employees if you are got a sponsorship from particular places. Three main visa categories available for employer-sponsored visas: subclass 482 visas, which is commonly known as a TSS visas; subclass 186, an employer nomination scheme (ENS); and subclass 494 visa, which is a skilled employer-sponsored regional visas. Now, the main difference between these three visa is the work experience as well as the occupation. Now, for 482 visa, the applicants require only 2 years of work experience within last 5 years of time frame. And also they do not require to provide a skill assessment if they have a qualification gained in Australia. For non-Australian qualification, if you are using your experience, you must obtain a skill assessment from the relevant authority. And once you work with your employer with 3 years after the visa grant, you can also apply for 186 visa through TRT stream for chef or GSM visas, which I discussed earlier. So it's not a direct permanent residency, but 482 visa always provide you a pathways for the permanent residency. And I would say if you are short of your experience, I would say it's a very good option to choose from the employer sponsored visas. The other visa would be the 186 visa, which is again direct permanent residency. Now, in this 186 visa, you must have a minimum 3 years of full-time work experience within last 10 years of time frame, as well as you must obtain a skill assessment, which is a mandatory requirement for lodging this for lodging this 186 visa. Apart from this, applicant must require a minimum 6 band each in English or equivalent examination. The last option would be the 494 visa, which is a skilled employer sponsored visas. So if you have an employer and if they are happy to go ahead with this 494 visa options, you can also consider a very good option. For example, a cook, they can go for this 494 visa because they do not have options to go for 186 visa directly at this point of time. So they can also obtain for 494 visa options where they have to work minimum 3 years with the same with the same employer. And after working 3 years, they can apply for 191 visa, which is again independent pathways, where after it's a combination of employer sponsored plus independent. So first you get a visa through employer sponsorship, and later on you apply visa independently to become a permanent residency, to gain your residency. Again, the skill assessment is a mandatory requirement for lodging this 494 visa. Plus your employer's location must be in a regional area. Now this 482 visa and for 186 visa, your employer location can be anywhere. It can be in regional and it can be in metropolitan area as well. But this specifically for 494 visas, the employer location must be in a regional area. If your employer is outside of regional area, you cannot lodge this 494 visas. Now, so I have like a cover up most of the occupation, like the pathways and the visa options available if you do this cookery occupations. If you still have any question, you can always ask us a question. More than happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you so much, Dipen and Sailu, for an insightful session on cookery. Now, moving on to the Q&A session, we've got like questions, couple of questions here. So our first question is from Faisal. So Faisal asks, could you please elaborate technical interview stage?
Okay, so well, I did not get the exact question, what exactly Faisal is looking for, but what I understood is what is Faisal wants to know is what is the requirement for the technical stage and what sort of the question they will be asking. So basically, Faisal, they will be asking about the questions, particularly your workplace. So let's say if you're working with a particular restaurant, they will ask you to perform particular task. So they have a range of tasks which will be available on their technical interview guidelines. So they ask you, let's say, for example, they may ask you to marinate a chicken, for example. So you have to perform that task satisfactory. And once you perform that task, then they will conduct that, okay, you are quite eligible for performing this task. So they have a set of the tasks and they can ask you one by one. Apart from that, they can ask you a general question like health and safety related question, food handling questions, safety related questions. All those questions will be asked in the technical interview stage. The time frame of the technical interview would be around an hour to 2 hours, depending upon the assessor. But so far, what I have seen from my experience that majority of the applicant they find very easy and they have passed the test without any issue.
Thank you so much, Dipen. I hope it answers your question, Faisal. And now moving on to the next question, we have it from Ujjain. So Ujjain is asking on to the other options for PR pathway for hospitality in Adelaide.
Okay, so again, Ujjain, like as I mentioned earlier, uh, for if you are have completed only certificate 4 level qualification and certificate 3 level, you can go for the cookery, like the cook and chef occupation, but there is another occupation. If you have completed diploma, you can go for the cafe restaurant manager or hotel motel manager. Again, depending upon which particular occupation you are going ahead. In Adelaide, specifically South Australia, there is a specific occupation-wise requirement. But I would say apart from cook and chef, if you have completed diploma level study, you can look for a cafe restaurant manager or hotel motel manager occupation as well. Okay, so I can see here hotel motel manager from Ujjain. So Ujjain, like as I mentioned earlier, in South Australia, again, like every occupation has a different requirement, considering they have a different streams available, the graduate stream and working, South Australia. And if you're working in outer regional area. So for outer regional area, there is no requirement of working in nominated occupation. But if you are in Adelaide, you may require to work for minimum 6 to 12 months, depending upon your work location and your points. You can go for either 190 or 491 occupation. So they have closed their program at the moment. But as you know, when we moving ahead into the next financial year, the requirement will be published again, and we might see a changes into those requirement. But as I mentioned earlier as well, if you're working outside of like a remote regional area of South Australia, you does not required to work in your nominated occupation. But if you are working in Adelaide specifically, you must require to work in your nominated occupation.
Thank you so much, Dipen, for an elaborate answer. And the next question is from Kirke, and the question is on what is a better to study in Gold Coast or Adelaide? So, which state is best to get PR?
Okay, I would say here both of the states provide the permanent residency pathway. and visa options available for like independent as well as the employer sponsored visas. I would say like depending upon your requirements, you can pick either Gold Coast and Adelaide. However, considering that Gold Coast has a, like a tourist spot, definitely hospitality industry is very big in particular Gold Coast compared to Adelaide. But as I mentioned earlier, like you can go for Adelaide as well, which is quite popular destination for students at the moment, and which also provide the permanent residency pathway. Again, like if you study in Gold Coast or Adelaide, you will be eligible to get regional study points. So again, according to me, there would be like not major difference if you study in Gold Coast or Adelaide.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dipen. And we have a continuing question from Faisal. So Faisal asks that he has not studied cookery. He is into food and beverage manager for 2 years now. So can he get a skill assessment as a restaurant manager through RPL?
Okay, now this is a different question, I would say, but I would like to answer here. Now, restaurant manager skill assessment will be done by Vet Assess. It's a general occupation, not a trade occupation. So their requirement is you must have a minimum diploma level qualification. And if you do not have a diploma level qualification, you require a higher experience. So 2 years of experience would not be sufficient in order to get a skill assessment as a restaurant manager.
Perfect. I hope this answers your query, Faisal. So this was the last question that we had, and thank you so much, Dipen and Sailu, for an insightful session again. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. We have our other sessions coming up today on automotive, civil construction, and telecommunication. So please feel free to join in. I'm sharing the links along. Thank you so much for joining in again.